Wealth, security, and opportunity are a byproduct of success. However, it often comes at the expense of deep personal satisfaction and happiness. This is the Design Your Destiny podcast, and I am your host, Penny Chason, board-certified hypnotist and #1 international best-selling author. I work with the highly successful influencers, business leaders, corporate leaders who desire a life by design. In this podcast, I will bring to you succinct solo episodes and interviews that dissect the challenges of success and highlights the ways to leverage your most underutilized asset, your subconscious mind. If you desire peace and happiness in your life, better health, and stronger relationships so you can enjoy the success that you have created, keep listening because this podcast is for you. Letting go of control is going to open up your future in ways that you cannot imagine. Are you someone who craves certainty? Do you feel that you are in your power when you know what's going to happen next? I want you to think about that. What is it about needing to know what's going to happen next, or that certainty, that brings you so much comfort? And I use that word comfort intentionally because it's surprising how many people actually pride themselves on getting outside of their comfort zone, yet they grip tightly to controlling certain aspects of their life or their business. That need to control impacts everything, because when things need to be adjusted, when changes need to be made, then it throws off your expectations. And it's our attachment to our expectations that create unhappiness. This need for control, this desire for control, this desire for certainty comes from needing to be in a place that's familiar, because within that familiarity is a sense of safety. If you're someone who is controlling, or you know someone who is controlling, what has happened is that at some point in life, there was a certain set of circumstances that your brain used as a model of reality for its way of responding. So let me give you a really extreme example that might help you understand what I'm saying. Take a woman who has been battered in a marriage. She's been in an abusive relationship. She's been there for years. She finally manages to get out of that relationship, and maybe she gets back on her feet. She feels comfortable dating a few people. And let's say she meets someone who is just adorable, someone who will truly take care of her, someone who truly loves her, and she just abruptly walks away from that relationship. And everyone around her is like, oh my God, why would she ever walk away? This is someone who would never hurt her. They love her. They adore her. I don't understand what's going on. And it's because the brain, not her consciously, but the brain sees that relationship as something extremely uncertain. It can't predict. So the instinct is to activate fight or flight and to run away. I know it sounds very counterintuitive, but what the brain perceives as familiar is often considered the safer option because it's predictable. It doesn't mean it's the truly safe option. So then what happens? Oftentimes, unless this person does the healing that's necessary through therapy or whatever means, they will end up in another abusive relationship. Another example that might be a little more familiar is one where you grow up in a home and you watch your parents, you watch how they interact. And perhaps the way that one of your parents behave is not, you don't like it. Like, you love them, but you don't like the way they handle relationships. So you say to yourself, I'm never going to be in a relationship with someone who acts like, let's just say, mom. Never going to be in a relationship with someone who acts like mom. And then lo and behold, you go out into the world, you get out of high school, maybe you go to college, or maybe you're in business for yourself, and you meet someone and you fall in love. And next thing you know, you realize is that you've fallen in love with someone who's just like your mother. And how did this happen? How did it happen? Because you swore you would never be in a relationship who exhibited these specific personality traits or characteristics. Well, the way that it happened is your subconscious picked up on those traits and it recognized them as familiar. It didn't matter that you didn't like them. You grew up in that environment and it's familiar to you. So the subconscious mind does that. So the sooner that you recognize that those things happen, you can curb those behaviors. Sometimes it requires some subconscious work, not always. But that's a couple of examples of how certainty can come from some very strange places. When it comes down to needing to be in control, the greatest control that you can have is the choice to actually let go. Because control is an illusion. You can't control what's going to happen next year any more than you can control what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. And you can say, well, of course, Penny, I can control what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. On my calendar, I have this meeting. And before I go to this meeting, I'm going to finish listening to this podcast episode. I'm going to go get a drink of water, come back, get out my notepad and pen, and be ready for the meeting. Well, yes, you have a plan, but you can't control that meeting is actually going to happen. You could lose internet. If it's an in-person meeting, they may not make it to the meeting. You could trip and fall and break your wrist and need to go to the emergency room. There is zero control in life. Control is an illusion. And when you can move into the place where you realize the freedom is letting go of control, then you opened up your mind and your life to the possibilities of things you haven't imagined before. Because when you're trying to control, you are staying within your bubble. You're boxing yourself in and you're locking yourself into a certain set of circumstances by exercising control. When you can let go of that control and allow life to flow around you, opportunities, relationships, choices come to you that you never realized you had before. They were there the whole time, but you didn't see them because of the walls of this box or this room that you've put yourself in when you're the type of person who is holding on to control. When you value growth, when you value opportunity, when you value expanding your life beyond anything that you ever imagined, then you also value letting go. Because letting go gives you that freedom. Your power is in your ability to choose from moment to moment. And yes, sometimes it feels uncomfortable, but you can't tell me as a highly successful person that you got to where you are knowing the outcome of every decision that you're going to make. It's impossible. And if you tell me that, oh yes, I did know the outcome of every decision I made, I took a calculated risk, then I'm going to tell you, you took a calculated risk, which means that you know There was no control involved. It was a game of chance. Everything is a game of chance. So the best thing to do is to just let go and to allow and to have fun creating whatever it is that you want in this life as we move from day to day. Because life is nothing more than a game. It's all about how you show up and how you choose to be in this world. And being in control is limiting what it is that you can get out of life. That's the bottom line. It was one of the hardest, and I hate to use the word hard as a hypnotist. This desk is hard. It was one of the most challenging lessons for me to learn, to let go of control, because years in healthcare and in anesthesia, even though I could not predict what was going to happen, it was drilled in my head to anticipate, and anticipate that it was my job to be proactive for my patient. So I lived for a very long time needing to be in as much control as possible, because to not maintain control of that situation would put someone's life in danger. But within that, I also had to learn I had no control, because there were patients and situations and circumstances where you could do everything perfect. You could do everything beyond perfect, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And I wish that I had learned this lesson way back in my anesthesia career, because then I would not have internalized and personalized a lot of things that happened that were out of my control. Because I believe that on some level, I should have been able to prevent, delay, or minimize when sometimes it just wasn't possible. I was about to lay down a metaphor on you, but I figure it's probably best left for something else. But just to say that you can only make a recipe with the ingredients that you're given. And in life, we can't always guarantee that we have the ingredients that we want. So then we just have to get crafty, creative, inventive, and do our best. I hope you enjoyed this episode about control. It may have resonated with you. It may not have. It may resemble someone that you know. Here's my recommendation. If it resembles someone that you know, I would not approach them with advice about it, because one of the things about being in control is people are often very internally referenced, which means they may not receive that too well. So I'll leave it to you to decide how you choose to share this information. Have a great week. I will catch you next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Design Your Destiny. I would love to know what resonated most with you. So just take a screenshot of this episode, share it over on your Instagram stories, and tag me at penny.chason and let me know what you thought. Also, if you head over to iTunes and you leave a positive review, it helps this podcast to help reach even more people, making a difference, elevating humanity and mankind.